All right, we are in the home stretch of the Corsa Conversion. So this is part 3 of my 3-part Corsa Conversion series. So just a quick review. Part 1, I installed the Corsa cold air intake. Part 2, I installed the Corsa Sport Catback system. And part 3, I'm going to be turning that Corsa Sport Catback system into Corsa Extreme by installing the resonator delete pipe. So this is a pipe that Corsa sells that will replace the mid pipe on your Ram, your 2019 or newer Ram truck. And essentially what it does is it replaces the factory mid pipe that actually has a resonator right about here. So what this will do is give you a couple more decibels as far as how loud the exhaust is going to be. So like I said, last video I installed the sport system. In this video we're going to be turning that sport system into the extreme system because obviously you're removing that last resonator after the Y pipe and you're going to open it up just a little bit more. So I will say right now I am super happy with the volume and the exhaust note on the Corsa system. Zero drone, zero vibrations, nothing. The truck drives like OEM and the exhaust sounds awesome. So in this video, we are going to be installing this bad boy. So the first thing we need to do is remove that mid pipe. But before we do that, I want to take a couple sound ratings. So this Corsa resonator delete pipe can actually be used with your factory exhaust and really pretty much any other catback system that bolts up to your factory mid pipe system. So the exhaust that I had on this truck before, this pipe will actually work with that as well. So what we're going to do here before we remove that factory resonator is we're going to take some sound ratings. So I have a section for sport and extreme. We're going to measure the peak decibel at startup. We're going to measure the decibels at idle, so just the truck idling. And then I'm going to measure the peak decibel when I rev it, so up to 4,000 RPM. We're going to do that before, and then we're going to do it after we install that extreme pipe. This is by no means a scientific way. It just gives me a basis for comparison. And everyone's always been asking about how loud this actually makes your truck. So let's actually take a decibel meter to it and figure that out. But like I said, you can install this with your factory exhaust system, but you got to remember your factory exhaust system has a gigantic muffler as well as 2 resonators in the back. So will you really be able to hear the difference with this guy? Probably not. It's really when you get rid of those factory resonators in the back and go to a little bit more of a sportier muffler that this guy is going to really crank up the volume on your truck. So with that said, well, I guess tool wise, 15 millimeter wrench and sockets is what we'll need to remove that mid pipe. But let's go ahead and get some sound ratings here and then come back and see where we're at. Okay, so we got our sound meter set up, ready to go. And just like the original test, we're 10 feet away from the hitch just to keep things consistent. So the first thing we're going to do is flip this guy on max. And what that's going to do is keep logging the maximum decibel meter it's going to hear. And we'll reset it just before we start the truck. But what I want to do now is measure the maximum decibel reading when I start up the truck. So really what does a pseudo warm start sound like from a decibel perspective? So let's go ahead and reset that, wait for that plane to fly over, and then we'll fire it up. Alright, we got that. And the mic is turned towards me, so you're not going to really hear the full-on exhaust note coming out of here. There's going to be exhaust sound clips at the end of this movie that you can go ahead and take a look at. Let's do it one more time. We're getting some background noise. Okay, so we're on maximum. So there you go. 94 decibels for the startup. Let's turn it off of that and just get a reading on the idle. So the idle, if you're close, bouncing around 80. Let's see what an idle is at the 10-foot area. Okay. So we got 76 decibels as the idle. We got, 94 decibels as the startup. So let's go ahead and record those and go into what the revs are going to be. And unfortunately, I can't hold the camera and do the revs, so I'm going to have to just come back after and trust me on the numbers on that guy. All right, so here is our results from our baseline test. So we got 94 decibels. That's the peak startup exhaust now, and this is with a relatively warm exhaust. That's not going to be a cold exhaust. My guess is it's probably around 96, 98 on a cold start. As far as idle, we're looking at 76 decibels, so certainly a louder idle with this exhaust. And again, this is the Corsa Sport. And then revs, I'm at 111 decibels for a peak rev, so that was at 10 feet from the hitch. So let's go ahead and swap out that resonator delete pipe and then come back and see what our exhaust notes are after. All right, we are underneath the truck, and I just wanted to kind of give you a quick run through of what we are replacing. So this is the factory mid-pipe, and it goes and connects right up to the Corsa Catback that I just installed, and there is a little baby resonator here. So this connects to the truck right after the Y-pipe. So the Y-pipe comes into the mid-pipe, and then the mid-pipe has that resonator on it. So with that resonator delete pipe that we're installing, so this guy right over here, we're effectively replacing this little tiny muffler looking thing with just a straight through pipe. So it definitely will increase the decibel level. So pretty simple. I think those are 15 millimeter nuts at the front. We're going to unbolt those guys, and then we're going to unbolt where this mid pipe touches the Corsa Catback, and then just get the other one swapped right up into place. It's 4 bolts that we're undoing. This should be a relatively simple installation, so let's go ahead and get at it. Okay, so I have the resonator unbolted and just kind of hanging in place. So on the front side of that mid pipe, it's just 14 millimeter nuts, and then there's studs that are already, they're attached or welded into the Y pipe. So you just need to get the nuts off, and then you're good to go. And right now the mid pipe is just basically hanging on those studs up front. Then in the rear, there was 2 bolts. Let's see, right up there. So there was 2 bolts holding that joint together between the mid pipe and the catback. So I went ahead and undid the bolts, or undid the nuts and the bolts there, and I just left 1 nut in there. So basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lay underneath the resonator pipe. I'm gonna undo that last bolt there, or just kind of slide it out. And at that point, the rear of the mid pipe will be free. And then it's basically just taking the whole mid pipe, this whole thing, and just pushing it that way to clear the studs here, and then this thing will slide right out, and then we'll get the Corsa one and throw it into place after we do a side-by-side on these bad boys. So let's do it. All right, so we have the factory resonator out. Now, one thing to point out real quick here is this is actually a straight through pipe. So it's not packing like a cat where it's going through a whole bunch of filter media. It's literally just a resonator like a muffler. So if you look in there, you can see the perforations. The perforations just allows the noise to get up inside of this little bellow or the expansion portion where there's probably some packing in there, and then that kind of cancels out some of the noise before it leaves. So other than the fact that my Corsa one is just a straight through pipe, everything else is pretty much the same. So it's just going to bolt right up to that ball and socket exhaust joint right on the Y pipe, and then this will bolt right up to the Corsa Catback system. So you get some new hardware that kind of replaces the hardware I just put on with the Catback system. So we got some extra bolts there. But let's go ahead and throw this guy up underneath the truck, and then let's take some sound readings. All right, we are installed. So I got the Corsa pipe in there. Everything's tightened down. This part was super easy to put in. So basically the way I did it is after removing the factory one, you go ahead and take the Corsa resonator delete pipe. You get it up and over this little frame bracket here. And then from there, pop the front end on that little elbow, and when you do that, then go to the rear of it and then use one of the bolts to thread it through the joint here just to hold everything up into place. Then you slide this guy up against the joint and then just tighten it down, and make sure when you tighten it down that you don't do one side all the way and then go to the other side. Do it equally, so kind of switch off back and forth. Then tighten down the rear and you're good to go. So let's go ahead and get all our tools cleaned up and do those post resonator pipe decibel readings and see how much loudness or how much tone this has given us. All right, so let's get the decibel meter good to go, and we are reading sounds. All right, the Corsa resonator delete pipe is installed and ready to go. This will be our first startup. So let's get this guy set to max and let's do it. All right, so it looks like the exhaust is roughly 94 decibels at startup, so it's the same as it was prior to the resonator delete. So let's go ahead and take a look at idle. It's like idle, we're around 80. Yeah, when I talk it gets a little bit louder. Nice. All right, well, let's take a look at revs. Let's go ahead and rev it and see where that goes. I think that's where we're really going to hear this bad boy come to light, but I could kind of tell it's a little bit louder. So let's go ahead and I'm going to rev it and get some max ratings, and we'll come back and see where that one landed us. All right, so here are our final decibel readings. And again, this is 10 feet away from the hitch. So in the sport mode, the startup peak was 94 decibels. In the extreme mode, roughly similar, so 94 decibels as well. I don't know if there's a point on there, but same as far as startup. Idle, 76 decibels in sport mode, 80 decibels in extreme. So this is, I definitely noticed this. So when I was trying to talk, when we were filming that idle, I could definitely tell I had to talk a little bit louder, and I can kind of hear it in the exhaust. So what's that, 4 decibels louder at idle? And that's the awesome one. That's kind of what you want the truck to be loud, because that's when the truck has that really gurgly noise. These Hemis sound awesome at idle. As far as revving it, so this is revving it with the car in park. So the exhaust note changes when you put it in drive and drive around. But as far as revving it when I'm in park and sitting in my garage here, I was getting 111 decibels on the sport system, and the extreme I get almost 113 decibels. So a 2 decibel difference between there. But like I said, I haven't driven this yet. The exhaust has a slightly different note when you actually put some load on it, but just straight revving at 10 feet, this is what you hear. So I imagine once I get some load on it and really hit wide open throttle, this is going to go up. But louder at idle, louder at peak rev, roughly the same at start. So I'm going to go ahead and drive around a little bit, let everything settle in here, and then we'll get some sound clips, and you let me know what you think. So do you like the sport system, or would you prefer the Corsa Extreme system? So with that said, that is how you install the resonator delete pipe, and that is the end of the Corsa conversion for the Ram Rebel. So hope you enjoy these sound clips. We're going to do factory versus sport versus versus extreme. So there'll be 3 sound clips on revs, drive-bys, slow Accel, and then fast Accel. So enjoy the sound clips and let me know what you think down in the comments below. If you're interested in any of the Corsa parts, I'll leave them all down in the description, or you can hit up my Instagram. And I'll also leave a coupon code. So the Corsa crew was nice enough to set up my YouTube channel with a 5% off discount code. So if you use Waterfowler at checkout, that'll get you 5% off of your order through Corsa. So again, I'll leave that down in the description below. But yeah, let me know what you think of the exhaust sound. I'm really happy with how these Corsa parts installed and how they sound, look, and perform. So what an awesome deal this was. Again, hopefully you enjoyed the Corsa conversion. I got a couple more projects in the hopper for the Rebel, but thank you very much for watching. Take care. it.